Folks, let me know if you're back. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we
Or
can hear you.
you still on lunch? Okay, Mallikarjun, thank you.
Yeah.
How about others?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. So I hope everybody had a good lunch. Any
Yes.
questions, thoughts, folks, on anything before we go on? Okay. So what I will do now, because it's post-lunch session, right? We will sort of like, think about doing some hands-on work, right? And I know some of you may have already done this activity earlier on, but I will ask you to go through some of these links in my blog and start doing some of the dummy coding, standardization, outlier treatments on your own, right? And I'll give you some time to first go through it, ask me any questions, and I'll be going step by step in terms of setting up some of these things and all of that. But I'll just put this on the window very quickly for you on the chat group and give you some time to read through it first. And let me know if you've already done something of that nature earlier on. And if you have the codes ready. So just take a look at the chat window. So these are some of the dummy coding articles, or I mean, not just necessarily dummy coding, but pre-processing, data pre-processing articles that we'll be leveraging from the blog itself, right? And what you will see throughout the module that we follow over here in this module, I don't give you any ready-made code. So I will ask you to type the code in so that you get a good practice of making sure that you're typing it correctly, understanding the syntax of the code, troubleshooting the information, debugging your code. All of those things will come in naturally if you do that, right? So I'll just give you some time to take a look and let me know what all you have already done.
So, sir, we have to go through all the links, right? You have
Yep,
provided.
correct, yeah. Or maybe what we can do is we can go one by one. So missing value treatment, right? You can begin with first, missing value treatment.
So, like in the previous statistics, for missing value, what I did is it's a regression-based problem. I use regression to fill the missing value. I use mean imputer, but mainly I used regression or one more high, one more.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
to give the missing value. Like, which one is more favorable? Because I think if I use a regression model, the missing value, it will give more appropriate result, right?
I don't know what you mean by regression based missing value treatment. So you may want to just clarify that. But missing values can be treated either with any fixed value that you may have in your mind, or with the median, or with the mode, or with mean, right? So there are many ways of doing that. So we'll talk about some of them. But happy to hear like what regression based missing value you have done earlier on.
Uh, there
Or you
is a
saying we did the missing value treatment within the regression model?
yeah, using like what I did, I used Titanic data set.
Uh-huh.
So age, like from the data set, I uh, figure out what are the missing value. For age, it's like 177 records doesn't have, like it contains NaNA.
Yeah, correct. Right. I remember that, and we're gonna do some of that as well. Yeah, but good to know that you remember that. Yeah. Okay, then how did you treat them?
What I did, I use uh, I'm forgetting the name of the regression which I used, like the model which I used to. Just give me a second. I'm searching for the code.
Sure, no problem.
Sir, meanwhile, do we need to just go through the
Yeah,
link,
please go ahead.
or we also need to type it and check? Hello,
Sorry, your voice is breaking, or is it just me?
uh, sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Hello,
now. Yeah, go
can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, maybe there is a lag. So yeah, I meant is we have to just go through these links, or we need to also code.
We will begin the coding as well.
No, so right now you are asking us to go through. So go through means what? Just walk through.
First, try to understand what we're doing, and then we will start
Okay,
typing it in.
okay, fine. That
Yeah.
we will do it together.
Yep. The meaning, I mean, everybody can start following the blog. So if you have already gone through and you already know what these concepts are, then you can begin the code part yourself.
Okay, okay, understood. Yeah, thank you.
So to I now I got the code. Like I use least gradient boosting regression model to get the missing data from it from the data set for age. Like
Okay.
you create train test data. I use the model, fit it in the train data set, and I predict the missing value or every value. Then I replace the age data set to the predicted data set what I have get from the using that model.
Okay. Got it. We'll
Yeah.
take a look. We'll take a look in some time. Let's go through the other links as well, all of them, and begin some of the coding once you feel comfortable, or you can ask me the question like, what we're doing, why we're doing, all of that, and we'll be more than happy to clarify, right? But there are
That
many, many things that you must do in the data preparation stage before you begin to the modeling. So we're looking at that. And related point is, let me see if I can first give you some color and then ask you to start coding, right? So just give me a moment. And I'll start sharing my screen again. Okay, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at the article number 27, we haven't covered, the last couple of questions, which is, what is a typical modeling life cycle and what are the application area, right? So for example, if I click on life cycle of ML project, I wanted to clarify some of the points over here so that you're very clear. So you can see this is a typical life cycle of a modeling initiative, right? And it's not necessary that all the models and all the initiatives will go through this, but typically that is what we follow, right? So you begin with the business problem. Business problem is, for example, your client may come in and say, I want to figure out a strategy to accelerate the sales of my product, right? Or the team may come and say, can you help me identify the levers to save the cost, right? Or can you help me find out who should we target next in our prospect base, or how to optimize our marketing strategy? So that's what I mean by business problem. You generally begin there. Then you have to figure out what are the values and the benefits in terms of following this approach. Once you get a good understanding of business and you've gotten the buy-in from your stakeholders, yeah, this is exactly what we're trying to solve for. You have to figure out what are the data requirements and whether that data is available or not. What are the limitations that we're looking at? Again, get the stakeholders buy-in. And then you begin with the exploratory analysis and analytical plan, right? This is where you spend a lot of time talking about the data and other things and stuff like that. And then you move on with building the model and the other stages related to that, right? But within this modeling activity, all of the data, or I mean, most of the models will go through the data pre-processing stage, right? And I think that's where this last article will really come in. And it's a long read, so I don't expect that everybody would have done the reading just yet on this, but definitely you can take a look later on. So it talks about many different aspects of machine learning. How should IT prepare for building a machine? So more about the granular day-to-day pieces of building the model. Uh, and down there, you will see that you will have different stages. So you have input data, learning, output data, right? I'm just trying to find the slide, and you have different sort of supervised and supervised learning models examples over here that I can come back to you later on. Um, Maybe it is not there in this article, maybe in some other. Yeah, or over here, right? So you basically classify the problem, you acquire your data, then you process your data. This step, the step number 3 that you're looking at, is the most time consuming step, right? And there are approximations that it may be anything between 50% to 70% of your entire modeling project, right? So most of the time you're just looking at your data, making sure that you have the right information, you have done the right pre-processing, and data is ready to go for the modeling activity, right? So that's where it consumes a lot of bandwidth, right? And what is involved in the pre-processing, I will talk about some of them, and that's where it will provide the linkages to what we're looking at, right? So when you're talking about the data pre-processing, there are many different things involved there, right? And some of the main ones are following: missing value, right? So if there is anything missing in your data, the models will not work. The sklearn model that we use will not work. And why would the information be missing, anyone? Why would your data be having the missing values?
Means somebody has not filled it because he thought like it is not important, but it might be important for us to build a model.
Right. So it could be the data error, or it could be
Yeah.
the human error. It could be the data is not available. It could be many different things. So missing values can be there for legitimate reasons, or it could be also for invalid reasons, right? But the bottom line is, if your data has missing value, you should think about treating it, right? So sometimes what do we do is we do the replacement. Other times we remove the entire rows that have the missing values, right? So it depends on the strategy and how much your data really means to you in that regard, right? So depending on that, we will think about what we do. And when we talk about the replacement can be done with um, any reasonable value. And we will discuss what is reasonable. So that basically will be contingent on your business knowledge understanding. So you can replace either with any reasonable value, or you can replace with mean of the variable, right? Or you can replace with the median of the variable. I assume you guys are familiar with the mean, median, right? Can I get a confirmation? Yes, no?
Yes, Pakka.
Yes.
Or mode of the variable, and so on and so forth, right? Or if you're not going to do the replacement, you can remove the entire row, you can remove the entire variable depending on what you're looking at. So that also is a strategy that some people follow, but we will mostly talk about the replacement, right? In many ways that we are looking at. Okay, any questions on the missing value, people?
Yeah, I
Uh,
have one
no.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we recently we got one problem from previous class where we were working on one data set where for your dependent variable we had lot of missing values.
Yeah.
And now we're building a model on that dependent variable, like it was a classification problem. So if our output itself has a missing value, correct? So if you try to apply all these methods, whether it is how much your
You
model
should
will be
remove it.
good.
Yeah, if your dependent variable has the missing values, you should ignore those dependent variable, because ultimately you cannot predict, right? I mean, your whole purpose is to build a model to make the prediction of your dependent variable. If your dependent variable itself is missing, then unless you will lose a lot of data, my recommendation will be to remove those observations where your dependent variable is missing,
Okay.
Okay.
right?
That's
So
a
that's
good
what we do typically.
guesswork. That's a good guesswork I did while submitting that assignment. Actually, we
Yeah.
removed those things because it was a lone default problem, logistic regression prediction problem. So we
Uh-huh.
did not want to assign some 150 rows for having whether default or not. It did not have the data, so I didn't feel it would make any meaningful sense to attach a number to it. So removed it. So
That's correct. That's correct.
okay.
Sir, actually, when we are replacing values with mean, median, and mode for any independent variables, will it not
Mhm.
influence the model?
It will influence the model. That's where you have to be really making a good choice in terms of what is the right strategy. And you cannot have a blanket strategy as well. So for certain columns, you may want to replace with median. For other columns, may want to replace with the median, right? So we will talk about all of them, but that it just depends on how good you are in terms of building your model, and it will come gradually to you. But there are certain strategies that you can follow, and then you can do that better. But it definitely has an impact on the model performance, is what I'm trying to say,
Okay,
and that will be slowly a skill that you will learn over a period of time.
understood.
Other questions, folks?
And over there, while treating with this those missing values, the approach could be there like if there is only one dependent variable and one independent variable, then in both cases all the missing values those records can be dropped because by filling a mean or median or anything, it may not add any value to the model. But on the other hand, there are some three or four dependent variables. I'm sorry, there are three or four independent variables, and one of them have some missing values. So instead of dropping them, it will be good to replace them with median mode so that
Yeah,
the data in other columns can be used for model building.
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
That's exactly right. Okay. Other questions, thoughts, people from anyone? So that's the first one that we're talking about, the missing value. So why don't we do this? Since you've just spoken about the missing value, and I'll come back to this Excel file that I was looking at and show you the things that you should do. But let's go through the links that I've shared with you. So I was going to pull up this link, missing value treatment. And let's go ahead and make sure that you are able to follow along this code and understand what we are doing. If you don't want to type, it's okay. But just take a look at each of the lines of the code, and I'll just put this link separately. It's okay for you whether you want to type or not, but at least the understanding should be there before I move forward, right? So I'll give you maybe 5-10 minutes to take a look and then let me know. So go line by line, because then what we're going to do is we will start to apply all of these treatments on the data that we're going to look at, right? And that will come in gradually as well. But at least the basic concepts, why we are doing certain things, how it works, I mean, should be clear to you before we get to that stage, right?
Yeah. Sir, I quickly went through this part. We have done with
Uh-huh.
good number of these concepts we have applied. One
You've already
thing,
opened, right? Okay.
one
Yeah.
thing which we have not come across is this quantile. Where do we use and why do we use? If I'm too early in asking the questions, let others also can catch up. But this is something we have not used or not come across. And the clip. These are the two things that we did not use.
Clip and the quantile.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about that.
Sure.
So you're looking at the article number 21, right?
The first link that you sent.
The first
Uh,
link that I've sent. Acha, acha.
yeah.
Got it. Just a second. Because I was
Data
looking at
tree.
the last one.
Okay, okay.
dummy
That
variable coding.
reprocessing
Yeah.
missing values, outliers, and dummy variable coding. That is a link I'm looking at.
Yes. Yeah. Um, right. We'll come to it in a minute.
Sure.
And because this is the exact thing that we're gonna do on the Titanic data. So hold on to
Okay.
that one because that is gonna be hands-on work. But I was
Okay.
just looking at the link that I shared with you right now on the chat window. If you can take a look, the last link
Ah,
that I've shared with you, this one, and see if you can follow along with that. Yeah.
okay, sure. Sir, in the second part in that link, so it is saying replace 999 and 999 with np.9. So it look for exactly those two numbers, double four, 49 and 999, and replace
Four
any value
nine triple
matching.
nine. Which
Yeah,
let me just pull up that link so then you can tell me
sure.
which one, which line.
Uh, okay. Yeah, immediately over there in the second part.
This
Yeah, over there. Yeah.
this one. Yeah. Okay. What about that, Mallikarjun?
So it is going to replace this any numbers, any data having 9999 and 999. Those things
Right.
will be replaced
Correct.
with
That's
that,
correct.
no?
That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
We are
Because a lot of
specifically
times
giving
some
the
people.
values there. Uh-huh. Okay.
Sorry.
Directly we are giving value match over there. Exactly this number or this 999 are the ones that
That's
get
correct.
replaced by NAN. Okay.
What happens sometimes is that the data entry folks will just put random values, right? Like
Hmm.
99999, something of that nature. So they're not necessarily good values, right? Because we can tell that these are bogus values like this, for example, right? So when we're
Okay.
going to do the missing value treatment, the algorithm will say this is not missing, so why should I replace that? So they will keep it like this only, right? So what we're saying is that if you know that there are certain bogus values as well that the data entry team puts in, you can first make them missing. So what we're saying over here is that if you find 999 or 999 something of that nature, please replace them with the NAN so that they become missing value, and then you can do the missing value treatment in one go.
Yeah. Okay. Over there, we can also give some kind of a condition, a number greater than some thousand.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can build a logic as well to say
Okay.
if things are in this fashion, then you can definitely go ahead and use that as a missing value.
So over here, anywhere in the any column or any row, if it finds these two numbers, it will replace.
Exactly, that's correct.
Okay, got it.
Other questions, thoughts, people from anyone?
This is NA and is null, both are used interchangeably, right, sir?
Is null and is NA? Yeah,
Yeah.
there is some difference. I think it depends on the categorical versus other types, but I'll have to double check on it. What is
Okay.
the difference? But more or less, it works similarly for most of the variable. But there are certain variables where the response may be different.
Okay.
Sir, one basic question, like if we don't have data itself, I mean there is no entry at all. So right now we are seeing that we have NaN, but if there is nothing, then that also we can fill with NaN.
Yes.
Okay.
NAN means that is missing actually. So if your coding is correct, then it should be NAN. Or if it is completely missing, that means a space is there, right? For example,
Yes.
or there's nothing, then you can have a single quote, or I mean the closed quotes, and then have nothing in there, and then you can replace that with the NAN as well. That is more like a regular expression that we do in terms of just fixing the text and stuff like that.
Mm. How can we take care about that? Like, see, in the previous code, right, where we are replacing 999 with NAN.
Yeah.
So, if there is a blank, how do we handle?
If there is a blank, then most likely that will be coded as a text data, and you have to go through the text cleaning process, which is slightly more like sophisticated than what we're looking at over here, because the missing value will not be shown as this. Only this will be shown for the numerical variables, right? So if
Mhm.
there is something which is completely missing, this column will be coded as an object, and for object you can then go and then look out for missing values in terms of the not having any n at all, right? And then you can actually have that treated with the mode. Or if it is not even replacing that, then you basically say something of this nature, which is a regular expression RE, and then you have to go and find and replace. I can give you some glimpse of it in some of the
Okay,
future modules as well, but slightly more sophisticated than what we're looking at as of now.
okay, clear. One question is that if it is a scale value and it has NAN, in the description, will it show as a is scale or checked?
Scale meaning?
Scale means integer or float. So, I mean,
Yeah, it will show as an NaN. Yeah, it will show as an NaN.
but object type, the type of the variable it will show is the categorical or measured
It will be either int or float if you are having the NaN.
with NaN. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And can
So
we
for
scroll below?
example,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was gonna pull up the Titanic one. Let's see,
Mhm.
where is that? I don't know how to go back to, unless let me just stop sharing. Stop the processing. I'm just pulling up the right information and then I'll show you so that your doubt is cleared
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
Actually, let me share my screen. Even in that case, it will be NaN for the object type. So I just got that code I was going to look at. So for example, in this Titanic data that we'll be working with, embarked is the object type variable. So basically, that means which port that passenger boarded the ship from. And there are a couple of missing values, and they're also coded as NaN, right? You can see it over here.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we finish reading the remaining portion of this and then we can come back and discuss that quickly.
Sure.
So question on this.
Uh,
A
Sir, I
question.
have a one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Sir, this replace missing values with the mean of respective columns. Okay, so there we are. Okay, if I can point which one.
Which move up or down?
Uh, yeah, you are at the right place. Okay.
Hmm.
No, no. So over here we are saying my data.mean. So it will take care of respective
Exactly,
column
exactly.
mean replacement. Huh?
That's
Oh,
correct. That's
okay.
correct. Yeah.
So we
So
don't
for
need to treat
age,
column by column here. No? This is
it
good.
will no, no, no. It will do it all in one go. So it's basically says like my data is the name of the data frame.
Yeah.
You're doing the fill NA,
Hmm.
and you're filling with the mean of the respective column. So, for
Okay.
example, if you look at the row number three and only row number three, so row number three is missing. So now it has been filled with 30.3.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I think there's one more. Oh, maybe I don't have the picture over here, but there's one more row that got filled with 30.3 because they are the mean of that data, right?
Oh. Okay.
So that is what is happening. So any missing value will be replaced with the 30.3 if it is missing. So similarly, you can see over here. I think we'll have to look at the original data. Yeah, there you go, right? This is the original data. So we have 3, 4, and 9 missing. 3, 4, and 9 missing. And if I look at the 3, 4, and 9, 3, 4, and 9, they have been replaced with 30.3
Yes.
because that's the
Got it.
mean for the age, right? Similarly, you can see income is missing in 4, 5, 8, and 9. 4, 5, 8, and 9. 4, 5, 8,
Yeah.
and 9. Right. So 4, 5, 8, and 9 that has been replaced with the mean of the income, 21.7.
Hmm. Okay.
If
Got
it
it.
is a mixed variable like categorical and then measured, then will this work? This command will work.
No, only for the numerical.
Okay. So if we have mixed, then we have to explicitly mention that which all the columns we want to fill. Am I right?
When you run this command, it will ignore the categorical variable. It
Okay,
won't
fine.
do it for the categorical because the
Okay.
mean is
Which
not defined for it.
which one? The fill NA will ignore categorical or because
That's
we use
correct.
mean. Okay.
Fill NA will ignore the categorical.
Fill NA will ignore the categorical. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. No, fill NA you can do with the mode, but fill NA will not be working with the mean. You have to do the mode. I'll show you
Ah.
it in the Titanic dataset. So it won't
Okay.
work. So for example, over here, you can say I'm still using the categorical fill NA for the categorical, but I cannot use the mean because mean is not defined for a categorical.
Okay.
You have to define work with the mode.
Ah. Okay. Okay.
I hope I'm sharing my screen or no?
Yeah, you
I
are
am,
sharing.
right?
We're
Yes,
seeing.
yes.
Yeah.
Sir, what you are explaining about that mode, can you just say that again, sir?
Yeah, I will do that demo when we actually come to that stage for the Titanic data. Yeah.
Oh,
So can you go little bit up? I had so yeah, with any and all these two differences I wanted to know in these two. So
Yeah.
any means like all the row wherever we have NN, it will be replaced by no, it will be dropped, right?
If it
But
is
in
any row which is missing, if it is any row which is missing, that row will be removed.
okay.
Any.
Hmm.
All meaning if all the columns are missing, then all it will be removed. You can just work with this example and you can see what exactly it is doing. So if there is any column which is missing, it is much more harsh, this one. It will
Hmm.
reduce your data to a fraction. This is
Okay.
only if all the rows are missing. I mean, all the columns are missing in a particular row, then I'm gonna replace that. Folks, I'm getting few calls. What I will do is, I mean, you can go and take maybe 10 minutes to go through the remaining articles as well. Just give me 10 minutes and I'll be back. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can go through the other ones as well, and then I'll just come back and discuss with you in one go. All right, folks, I'm back. So let me know if there's any question from anyone on any of the links that we've gone through. First, with the missing value, if you want to begin there first, that will be important. Any questions that I was not able to address, I'll be more than happy to take it up now. All good? Yes, no? Folks, can you confirm?
So this missing value fill with any value of your choice. So what is the advantage of filling the value of your choice? It will not impact your model.
Your choice meaning like you have some business intuition behind that, right? So, for example, let's say I'm just making up something. Let's say I'm looking at financial analytics data, right? Where whether the person has defaulted on their loan is there, right? So whether somebody has defaulted on their loan, yes or no. So if there are certain rows where this information is missing, I know that most of the people do not default on their loan. A large majority of the people pay off their loan on time, right? So if I look at, let's say, 0 or 1 as the values which are there, and then there's a third value which is missing. So I cannot go ahead and say replace with the mode or replace with the median, right? So I can say replace with the 0 because I'm saying people who have missing values, I will assume that they have not defaulted on their loan, right? Things of that nature.
Okay.
So that's where your chosen value will come in because you know something about that business which makes sense to you, right? Okay, other questions on this? If you're good with the missing value, then let me know, folks. Or if you're still going through it and you have some questions, doubts, we'll be more than happy to address that as well. Okay, I take it as a no. We can definitely come back and talk about that. So that's the missing value. Um, right. So then what we're gonna do is we will look into the other links that I have shared with you. So we just covered that one. Uh, Dummy coding. So let's go through this link now. Spend maybe 5-10 minutes and let me know who would like to explain what is dummy coding, what is the significance. I'm just gonna put this link one more time, and then we'll do all of this on the Titanic data in some time. So let me know once you've gone through this link as well, which is the dummy coding of the categorical variable.
Yes, sir. Had a look at it quickly. Yeah, we have used some
Okay,
of those things.
I think it is
okay,
used to change the categorical data into numerical data.
right. And why do we do that?
To apply those, because we can't use categorical data in the modeling, right? We need numerical
Hmm.
data. Maybe for that
Hmm.
we use. Um,
That's
like,
that's correct, Mohit. Yeah. And Mallikarjun for your comments. Others, are you clear what we do and why we do in the dummy coding?
Yes.
Or you need some clarification, you can ask me questions on it as well if you need clarifications. All good?
We have mentioned four methods here for dummy coding, right?
Yeah,
So level encoder and then pandas. Uh, Out
correct.
of these two, anyone can be used anytime. I mean, or is it very specific to output variables and input variables?
Right. So there are certain algorithms where you must do the pandas dummies, for example. When we look into the some unsupervised learning like the market basket analysis, you'll see panda dummies is what we really need to use for a particular reason, right? But for the other ones where there is no such hard requirement, any of these other methods will work. I personally like the last one. I don't know whether you have done it already. Have you folks done this looping method already?
No, no.
The that is the only
No.
one we have not done, sir, actually.
You haven't done it, right? So I personally prefer this because it's very, very short code and it does the processing very quickly, right? So we'll talk about that when we look into the Titanic example. But go through each of these codes and let me know if you understand the syntax, how we are doing it, what we are doing, and how it really works, right? And there are, one hot encoders and stuff like that, label encoders that we do. So any of these methods will work, but I will personally prefer and use most of the time the loop method that I'm talking about. But I'll give you 5 minutes to go through this link as well.
so as we use that panda method to dummy code, it will give like in statistic we know that we have to get dummy code as n minus one. If the independent variables are 13, then if we have 13 categorical variables, there should be a dummy code of 12. Or
Yeah,
should be, right?
it doesn't do the n minus one, it will do the n actually. So
Okay.
that's the difference. Hmm?
Then we have to remove
Sorry,
manually the.
sorry, I'm not able to hear you very clearly. Can you say it again?
No, like after the
No,
looping, we have to
actually,
remove manually the n minus one, right? The
No, it
first.
doesn't do the n minus one. So I'll show you in the output. So I think, I mean, the my code may be slightly obsolete or they may have changed certain things. It doesn't do the n minus one. It will actually do the n. So for example, let's say you have gender, right? So it will do male and female. Let's say you have only two genders. It will do male and female. Correct?
Yeah,
So if you have one column where you have male and female, so it will say male and female, and it will have the 0 1 there. That's how it's gonna work.
but for get the like more appropriate result, we have to remove male or female, any one of them,
No, no,
right?
it's not needed. Not needed.
Not
Yeah,
I
not needed
think
in sklearn. It
we
might be needed in some other libraries, but not in the ML.
uh, okay. I think where that explain where it was explained was it is okay to have them coded separately, male and female, instead of coding in one. But the guideline is that when you finally present your results and business case, your model should contain as less number of variables as possible. In that
That's
context,
correct.
if we can reduce a six column into a five column, one as a default and the five are other representative. So that was
But
the
then I
concept.
wouldn't recommend the get dummies actually, Markarajun. You are right. But then I wouldn't recommend the get dummies because it just explores the number of dimensions that you have, right? So there are
Ah,
better ways, like the for loop that I'm talking about will be a better choice for doing that.
okay. Could you please explain us the for loop? How does it work and what does it
Y-
actually do? Sir?
Right. But let's see if there's any volunteer who would like to explain first. If you can
Sure.
follow along, I'll definitely explain, but let me just
Okay.
pick up the right area and see if anyone who would like to take a stab in explaining. So when you're talking about this for loop, you're talking about this. Let's see if any
Correct.
volunteers who would like to come and
So
explain.
may I try to explain it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so it's taking like it's taking the columns from the data set, then it figure out in the if case if the data type is object, sorry, and if it says it's an object, it will change the object category to a coding or their own specification.
Right, right. Absolutely right. So basically, what it is doing is it will go through your data frame. So let's say my data frame is called the DF. It will iterate through all the columns. So for call in DF dot columns, basically you can say for X in DF dot columns. So as long as there is something in the DF dot columns, it will go through and do this. It will check the data type, and if the data type is object, that means categorical, then it will convert the categorical, object data to the quotes. And what does the quotes really do? I'll just explain you that and then come back to the code one more time.
Yeah.
So what the quotes really do is basically following. So let's say again going back to the example, gender, right? So the gender can have two values, female and male. So when I run this logic, it will say female is first in the alphabetical order. I will assign code 0. Male is 1 because it is lower in the alphabetical order. So that's what it does. Basically, it doesn't create any new column. It will take the original column
Okay.
and convert that into 0, 1. Similarly, let's say I have a variable where I am saying, people are living in three different types of houses, HIG, MIG, and LIG. So it will create three different codes, but who can tell me what will be 0, what will be 1, what will be 2 over here, and why?
I think it is alphabetical order.
Right. So A, B, C, D, E, F,
H
G,
will go
H. H
zero.
will be 0. H,
Okay.
I, J, K, L
Yeah.
will be 1, and
Yeah.
then M.
Yeah, miss.
That's all it does basically,
Yeah.
right?
And this
Uh,
kind of code, this kind of coding is okay for all types of algorithms, or do you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
any
it mostly works for
restrictions over
everything because it saves your dimensions, right? Because you're not exploding the number of columns that you have. You're actually working with the original data size. So it is
yeah,
really helpful for that.
this is actually looks like most preferable, but
Suppose
then in what situation do we use those dummies actually, sir, versus this one?
I will
so,
give you one example later on. Hold on to that thought.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Somebody else is trying to ask a question.
suppose in case categorical variable, the value will be like more than 10 or something. Do you going to create the dummies for all the those 10 values, which has been
No, no. That's why I'm saying this for loops works better because it saves you the number of columns you have to create.
okay.
and sir, one more question. If we have uh, like lower alphabet and the upper alphabet, but the it is the same thing. Like let us say female F. It starts with F in caps and then in small, but both are same, right? So how it will code? By
It will
mistake,
be
my
treated.
data has both.
Yeah,
Maybe
it will
let
be
us say.
treated as two different categorical values. So you have to first fix, like I said, I mean, the text cleaning is more complex than this. You'll have to first
Okay.
convert small f to all the same, text because the capitalization will create a difference, right? Or, I mean, let's say somebody has done a space in front of f, all of those will be treated differently.
Okay.
So you'll have to do that cleaning earlier on. Okay. So let's do this,
Yeah.
folks. Let's actually do some hands-on work, and then some of these doubts will become clear. So I'm gonna put this link there for you, and I think some of you already worked on this data cleaning. So go ahead and import all these packages, import this line, and then do, like, some of these redundant columns drop, and we will come till about this stage where we are doing the missing value treatment first. We will see what really is happening when we're doing the missing value treatment. How are we treating different things? Uh, I think let's cover the missing value first, and then I'll come to the remaining part. So if you can go ahead and start working hands on just the missing value till row number 21, and follow the link that I've shared with you just now for doing that. And I'll give
Okay.
you maybe around 30 minutes to work on it, and then I will go line by line to explain how it is working, because that's where some of these doubts will be addressed. Because right now it's very theoretical discussion, but once we start to actually implement some of these things, it will become much more clear. Will that work?
Yeah.
So let's do that. So just go ahead and follow this last link that I've shared with you. Create a file, call it data pre-processing, or just call it Titanic data pre-processing, and then start working on it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll come back and address any remaining questions on this missing value and missing value and the dummy coding from there. Yeah.
Sure. Mohit, you could go mute, please.
Oh, sorry.
Is the dataset already shared or
That is already there in the sklearn library. You can import from there.
Yeah, we are loading
Just
from the
follow along the code
SMS
and you.
service. Yeah.
okay?
It is there in the code itself.
Okay.
folks, let me know if you have any questions or if you have already typed the code and it's working for you, or you're still going through.
Sir, one question on that mode part of it, replacing, there is mode, then there is a zero there.
Zero.
What is
Yeah,
point?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about that. But everything else you've done, Malkarjun?
Till that point going on, sir.
Okay,
Sir, we are still working on maybe 10th.
okay, fine. So I'll wait for you and then I will explain you that mode part. But just go ahead and make sure the code is working for you.
Yeah.
And then I will explain you what that does basically. Yeah.
Yeah. We are at that 14th point still, sir. Some more.
14 point. Okay. So till 21st, sorry, you should be done and then let me know.
Okay.
Or actually do till 22nd. No harm in doing till 22nd. Because that completes the entire missing value and removing the unnecessary variables, right? Or I mean renaming the variables as well. So just finish till 22nd and let me know once you're done. 22nd row number.
Murgesh, you can go mute. Mohit, you could go mute, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you're not talking, you could go mute. There is background noise.
Okay, sorry.
Hello, sir. I'm 19th. I'm getting error.
Okay, you want to share your screen, Amit?
Yeah,
Ah,
1 second.
go ahead and share your screen. Let me know once you start sharing. Are you able to share first of all?
Yes. Can you see?
Yeah, now I can see.
This one I'm getting error.
Titanic deck, Titanic deck, fill NA missing. Okay, come down. What is the error? Cannot set item on categorical with a new category missing. Set the categories first. Okay. I believe what has happened over here is you haven't done that conversion because you've created a new data in the line 41, right? Titanic underscore deck.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversion needs to happen over there. Let me just take a look at my code a minute, just a second, and I'll tell you what exactly you're doing. So
Actually, this is
that is not
de-
the underscore in that line. That is dot.
okay.
That should fix it.
But it's a variable.
Yeah. Okay.
X.
Sure.
Done, sir. That code is working, but we will require some question. We will have some questions.
Okay, thank you, Mallikarjun. We'll wait
Yeah,
for others to also confirm, and then I'll go
yeah,
line by line.
yeah. Sure.
Others, do you need more time till line number 22, or is your code executing and you have the output? You can let me know yes, no. Are you good to go?
It's working for me.
Sorry?
Yes, it's working. Till line number
Okay,
22.
Sandeep also confirms that it's working. Anyone who is still working on it needs more time?
Even I am done.
Okay, awesome.
I'm done. Sir.
Okay, so I think pretty much everybody is done then. So that's a good thing. Um, let's go line by line to find out how it is and what is going on and what are the different aspects to it, right? Let me share my screen. Okay. Zoom in a little bit. Is there any package which is not familiar to you in this line? Or if you would like to tell me what all things we are importing over here?
I'm not familiar with panda profiling.
Hmm.
Like in first
Sorry?
module, panda profiling. In second module, they have like we try to import it, but it doesn't work in.
Pandas profiling?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll remind me in the next class. I will begin with the pandas profiling first. There are certain setups that are required, so that's where it may be important for us to do it. But that's okay. I'll explain you.
Okay.
Mohit, we made it work finally. We have a working code in
Hmm.
many of our listings. You are right, Sandra. We had some problems with the particular versions of dependencies and all. We fixed all of that, and then for most of us, it worked actually.
No, I have
But
Awesome.
we
asked.
went.
Sorry, I
Sorry.
asked. They told me like he will fix it, but it was not fixed.
Okay, for you.
So
Okay.
remind me the first thing that we'll be doing next time will be pandas profiling because I want to finish the pre-processing as much as possible today. If not, then we'll pick it up. I mean, if everything is done, we can pick it up today. If not, then in the next class. Yeah.
But we have used this package. It gives the summary profiling in one command. Mr. Mithun called it as automated EDA, and we have used it. So most of us.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
What is this doing? This line?
It's
If you have multiple code in a same
That's correct. That's correct.
command,
So if you
so
want
it
to,
will print the output for all of them altogether.
exactly right. So if you have, let's say, print head, print tail, all of those, then it will help you in terms of printing it, right? So otherwise, the last line will be printed only. None of the other things will be printed.
I also looked at a small workaround for that. Without this, also, if you simply keep them all in one single line with commas, that also works.
Right. The commas will work, but I think somewhere
But
the print may not be that legible. But if you have some
Okay.
output, happy to take a look, Mallikarjun. If you've done it and how's the print coming along, let's take a look.
Yeah, just a notes. Yeah, but we are following this,
Okay.
but the other method also works.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Then this is where we are loading the data. This is in the Seaborn library. Remember, we are calling Seaborn as SNS, import Seaborn as SNS. And SNS.load dataset will load the data. And then we are saying we want to load the Titanic data which is there. And then we are doing the Titanic head and Titanic tail. So what Mallikarjun is saying is that you don't have to have that magic command. You can just say Titanic head, comma Titanic tail, and that will print it, right?
Correct, correct.
Will that print in the same sort of fashion where you have nicely laid out table? I haven't tried that, but probably something that I should do.
For many variables, I have used that. I can just confirm in 1 second. Uh, yeah, we do see a little bit disturbed printing. It prints, but for these tables, it a little bit messes it up actually.
Yeah, that's why I thought that it's more
Sure, sir.
elegant way of sort of like representing. But yeah, I
Certainly.
mean, if you want to save the line of code, then definitely you can try it out. Okay.
Especially when you have the small variables and all like shape and the things like that. So all that can come in one line actually.
Right, right. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Uh, then we're gonna go and remove some of the redundant variables. Why are they redundant? Anyone? Any intuition why we are dropping these variables? Why they are redundant?
We didn't
Giving same
exactly.
kind of information which we can get from other variables too.
Right. So for example, alive is same as survived. Right. So we have
Okay.
survived and we have alive somewhere over here. So that's why it's not needed. Class class is this, and then I think there are some other variables which sort of like covers the p class. P class and class is redundant, right? So p
Hmm.
class is basically the numeric version of the class. So third is 3, first is 1, and so on and so forth. So that's why we are removing these redundant variables. So I hope the line number 4 is clear, everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then again, we are doing the head and tail, nothing big. Now we're doing the Titanic.info. So what do you make out from the Titanic.info? Some of the interesting reads,
Like we can see there are few missing values because the
right?
total count is 91, and we can see for age it's 1714, for deck it's 203,
Yeah,
and embarked is 889. Like
889. Two missing values, right? So you can see, first of all, over here, we have
The
891
sample size.
observations total. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just said the sample size we can see here with 891 observations and 9 features.
That's correct. So
Okay.
891 total observations and 9 columns. What are their types, like integer, float, object, category, right? All of those. And then 891 non-nulls, meaning that there's nothing missing. 714 non-nulls, that means there are 891 minus 714 missing observation, and so on and so forth. Right? All of those things are there.
Okay.
Sir, what is this category? Deck. Why not it
Deck
is
is
object?
Yeah, deck is not object, so it's like limited number of values it will take. So for example, if you have an object, it can take many different things. Category is basically a different. So I'll just try to see if I can help you get a context from it. So category versus object, Python. I'm just trying to pull up the right one. Categories is very rare actually. Most of the time it will be object only. But let's see. Uh,
That's what in our all previous exercises also, at least we have not come across the category type which is
Categorical, right?
recognized. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mostly it is
yeah.
object.
Mostly it's object.
Yeah.
Just a second. Let's see. So one of the suggestion is when there's a lot of repetition, but I don't think necessarily that is the correct answer. So categories is when something keeps on repeating multiple times, right? But this is probably a more legitimate answer. So categorical is more like a string you can imagine, right? So instead of saying string, even though string is also a different type, uh, you can sort of think about categorical is closer to the your string. String is like the text, free flowing text, right? Versus object will take a limited set of values that we have in that, right? So but I think we can investigate more on it, but in this case that's what basically it boils down to.
Sir, any example
Yeah, I mean,
gender is like male and female. That is a
object,
categorical variable, and that can
object,
be classified as object. But
that's correct.
when it could be a category?
I think in this case what you are seeing over here, I mean, if I go back to that data, because there's lots of missing values in the deck, right? So that may be the reason why it has picked up as the categorical, because it's looking at all these missing values and considering that as a string. So that is one reason, but most of the time it will be object only. Very rarely you'll need to convert something to categorical actually. In fact,
Oh,
the other way around is what we will be doing in this exercise.
even if we replace the NaN with valid values, then
Mhm.
also it seems to be categorical at the end, right?
Yep. It won't work. The missing values replacement that we're talking about will not work directly on the categorical, or the for loop will not work directly like that on the categorical. So that's why we'll be doing some cleaning on it, right? So, but I'll come back to you on the categorical and how we are converting that to an object in a minute. But just over here, we are dropping the redundant variables, doing the head, doing the info, looking at, yeah, there is a category that we need to fix, and I'll come to you in a minute. What is it that this line is telling you, line number 7?
Number of missing values, like
That's correct.
NaN.
We are checking for how many are missing values is NA, and then we're doing a summation of that, right? So you can see survived, and most of the columns don't have any missing values. Age has missing, embarked has missing, deck has missing, correct?
Sir, but this instruction will not give you the count for the blank one, right?
It is giving you the count for the blank one as well. So for
No.
example, the deck,
Okay.
if you look at the layout, I think is gonna give you the, but I think over here the deck is coded as NAN. However, you can try that. And you can also try is null.
Okay. I had tried actually in the previous data set, but I was not getting the count for if it is blank.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
that's
You
why.
have the code that we can take a look.
Uh,
Amit, may I help a little bit here? Is it really a blank or is it a space?
no,
Uh,
like if there is nothing inside that, I don't know if it is blank or space or anything.
See, I think some of the data sets we handled, I encountered that it appears as blank, but actually there is a space. So it's actually not blank, it is a space. So for visually, it appears as a blank column, which you expect to report as a missing thing, but this won't report. So for that, you will have to take that, give that as a condition, as we spoke a little before, and look for value equals to blank in the sense double quote space double quote, then it will list out that. Then
Okay.
that is something you have to fill with something else and then convert it
Yeah,
in nans,
clear.
and
But
only you
if
will
it
get.
is a very large data set, then may not be like we may not go to look into say like I mean from here onwards we will miss those things, right? And later we will get the error.
Correct. So you, at least in my view, we have to deal with them upfront. We need to ensure all these row numbers match. Sorry, sir, that's my observation, sir.
Right. Yeah. There could be many different ways why this is there, because, like Mallikarjun is saying, right, there might be a space, right, or underscore has been left there, right, or dot has been left there, which is not visible to us, but the algorithm is able to figure it out, right? Or if you just hit the space keys multiple time and you're saying, I'm looking for missing value, but that is not a missing value. There is a, place there. So some of those reasons could also be playing a role. But happy to take a look if you have a code.
So,
Excuse me.
We have like bank. bank loan CSV, there is a data set, and the output variable doesn't have any data. So I think we talked in the morning, right? So there, when you do this is NA, then you will not get anything. But later on, when you try to build the model, you will get the error because it
We
cannot
will
build the
try
error with
that.
anything.
Let's try that in the logistic regression one, and then
Yeah.
we'll take a look how to fix that. Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So I have pasted a code when I find the blank space. I use that to replace with any.
Okay, just a second. I'll take a look. Right, right. So this is more the regular expression, right? So you're saying basically if you're finding any of these special
Yeah.
characters, then you're gonna go ahead and replace them with the NaN. That's correct. But we're not talking about any of the text mining yet, so that's why actually I wasn't gonna go into that discussion. But you're right. I mean, it's looking for any special characters and saying, I'm just gonna go ahead and replace with the missing values. Awesome. Okay, so let's go back to where we were.
Summing,
Hmm?
summing of NAs.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this the one that we're looking at? I think, yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter. I think I may have the same file open in multiple places, but that's okay. So this is where we are doing the summing of the NAs. Now, this is where we are doing the missing value treatment. So what are we treating and how are we treating? Sorry, we're not doing the treatment. We're just finding out. So what are we
Yeah.
looking at? What do you think this line of code is doing?
For the age column, it is trying to get missing values
Filling
from
of NAs.
filling.
Yeah. So for the age, we are saying find out those rows where this is missing, and
Yes.
that basically gets created into a different data frame. So only those data frame where the age is missing will be created, and we are doing the head and shape of that, right? Why are we creating a new data frame? No particular reasons, but just to really show you that you will see all of the values over here missing, right? So and so on and so forth. But this is where you will see some of the action coming in. So then in the next line, what we're saying is, let's go ahead and look at three lines specifically. 19, 26, and 28. 19, 26, and 28. And you can see for all of them, the age is missing, NaN, correct?
90,
Everybody's
Yeah.
with me,
Yes.
Yes.
90, 26. Yeah. Mm.
right?
Yes.
Why are we doing this? Because I would pull these rows again and show you what they have been replaced with, just to really make sure that everybody follows in terms of the missing value treatment, right? This is what we are computing for the missing value treatment. So we're going to go and replace the missing value with median. So what we're saying is Titanic age. So find the median for Titanic age, which is 28, correct? Everybody is with me till line number 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then this is what we are doing, the missing value treatment. So we are saying, go ahead and replace my original age variable in Titanic and fill that with median of Titanic age. So basically it's doing Titanic age only on this variable. We're not doing it for all the variables, only for this variable. Fill NA. How are you going to fill the NA? You're going to compute the median of Titanic age and fill that. So what do you think these rows will have now? 19, 26, and 28. What value do you think this will have?
20, 28.
Correct. So when we go and then say, please go ahead and show me those rows after the missing value treatment, 19, 26, and 28, they have been replaced with 28. So this is how you basically fix one value with 28 or the median in this case. So I'll take a pause and see if this is good with you.
Sir, if you scroll up a bit,
Mm-hmm.
see this median we applied. So this will work only after the particular column has been recognized as the int or float.
Correct. That's correct.
Because we had this problem, we try to apply this, then it's an object data type, I cannot find median.
Correct.
So this is linked to what I think Amit mentioned a few minutes ago about the
Right.
missing values actually.
Right. So then if you want to do a blanket strategy, Mallikarjun, then you should convert your object to the numericals first, and then you can do it. So like dummy
Yeah,
code all of them, and then you can do it as a blanket strategy. Otherwise, you'll have to do one by one or create all the numerical
correct,
columns in one, and then so on and so forth, right?
correct. I just found the code which I did for that blank things. If time permits,
Okay.
someone is interested, I can show that circuit.
Yeah. Why don't you show it? Let's take a look.
Okay. Shall I share my screen?
Yeah. Please. Folks,
Okay.
I think this is good. I mean, if you find something you want to share with the class, feel free to come in and do that, and
Yeah.
then I'll come
Yes.
back to where we left off. Yeah, we can see your screen.
Yeah. So this is the car sales data,
Hmm.
wherein you see, for example, this cell D20, D20 over here. This
Hmm.
is shown as blank.
Hmm.
And this is, in my expectation, this should be treated as recognized as not a number, NaN.
Hmm.
But actually, if you see, if I double click this one, see,
Hmm.
there is a space in the beginning, which is not visible. See, if I,
Hmm.
this is really a blank cell. If I double click on this, the cursor is
Hmm.
blinking at very close to the left hand side. Over here, it is,
All the way.
there is a space over there,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
means there is something over there. And
Correct.
similarly, over here, there is something.
Yeah.
So most of this data set has this problem actually. I
Yeah.
found out after a lot of little bit of struggling and investigation.
Hmm.
Then while dealing with this in the code, I did the following. Yes, this one. So over here, I am reading this data set, and then I made some comment here. Say observation. Only sales column is recognized as float,
Hmm.
but most of them are recognized as object data type. So this
Hmm.
is the problem here. Though they are all
Because of the
number
missing
type.
value that you have, or the space
Yes.
that you have there.
Yeah. So this is due to the blank entries present in these columns that leads to
Yeah.
non-recognition as float. This was my assessment.
Yeah.
And
Correct.
then handling blank entries, what I did is to replace is this blank, I have put it there. This is what I was saying, double quotes and space and double quote. And then I replace them with force NaN.
Yeah.
And then I did in place equals to true, and then
Yeah. So you're replacing the space with. Sorry, go up there.
with an
You are
and.
replacing the code with the NaN. Yep. Correct. Yeah.
Correct. So then I started to treat them and then proceeded, sir. Then you could see by the time I reach here, so most of them are converted into float, recognized as
Yeah.
float. So that's
Correct.
all the piece of information I wanted to show. So,
Sounds good.
okay, over to you, sir.
Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing that, Mallikarjun.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on.
So I have a
There.
question.
Yeah.
Value.
Please go ahead.
So when to use
Hmm?
median or mode in that place to treat missing value?
I have hard time hearing you. Can you just come closer to the microphone? Say it again one more time.
His question is when to use median or mode.
Mean, median, or
Okay.
mode
A mean median.
Yeah.
while treating the missing value.
Who can answer that question? Let's see from the group first.
I can make an attempt, sir.
Sure. Go ahead.
So when we don't see too many outliers, mean could work. But if there are too many outliers, then the median would be a best representation of the central tendency. And then
Yeah.
mode is mostly for the categorical variables. We can use mode.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I think the reason why we use median is because if your data has a skew meaning very high values, very low values compared to the rest of the values, then median is a better measure of centricity of the data, right? So that is a a true measure of the central tendency of the data. However, for whatever reasons, if you have outliers in your data, and you say no, I really want to give some emphasis to my outliers because there is a certain significance that I attach to these outliers, right? And I would like to be cognizant of that, and I would like to replace that. Then you can try out mean. So that's the short answer for the numerical variable. Mode is not a preferred method for the numerical variables. Mode is a preferred method for the categorical variables when you have a limited number of categories, right? So not the unlimited of number of categories, the limited number of categories. And mode is nothing but what is the most frequently number that is there. So for example, let's say I have 10 boys and 5 girls in the class, the mode of the class is boys, right? Because most of the people are boys. So that's what basically the concept of the mode is. So mode is used mostly for the categorical. Mean and median is for numerical. If you want to be aware of the centricity of the data, neutralizing for the outliers, then you'll choose median. Otherwise, you can choose mean. But median is generally a more robust strategy overall, I would recommend.
Sir, to say that mode is used for the categorical, is it right? Because mean, median, mode, all three are used for the integer variable or maybe numeric variable, right? And mode
Mhm.
also is one of them. So when we say categorical, then it should
I'll
not be
show you in the
string, right?
next line. I'll show you in the next line actually. That will become clear mode. But for
Okay,
numerical, either it's a int or float, you will generally go with the mean and median, not mode.
So, sir,
okay.
before treating the missing value, we have to check the skewness of the data for those
Correct.
who.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That's where your EDA will come in,
Okay.
which will show you the entire profile of the data and how it's working and everything of that nature.
So, sir, we can create a
So,
pair plot, right, and see the
Correct.
skew.
That's correct. That's
Thank you.
correct.
right means that in mean method, the outliers will not be included, maybe?
Yeah, so median will be a better bet when you have the
Oh,
outliers because it's not necessarily median is least impacted from the outliers. Mean is more impacted.
You remember, madam, that Mithun sir was saying that income proportion, if you have to take it in Bombay income, there is a poor to Anil Ambani. So those could actually impact the mean if you take. But if you take median, these are well taken care.
okay.
That example sir was mentioning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great.
Okay.
So
Happy,
we just sorry,
happy,
go ahead.
funny here. No,
Yeah,
funny
funny.
here.
Yeah.
That's why please market my fast track analytics, which these questions would be taken care from from the beginning. So please,
Yep.
on my behalf,
Yeah,
please
yeah,
market my
absolutely.
fast track analytics classes.
Yeah, so recommend the folks. I mean, there is fast track analytics class that Funny runs on every Saturday. If you join that, there are a lot of similar questions and doubts being addressed there, and you can also discuss some of the other things there. So definitely recommend for all of you to join that.
Okay.
Not on immediate, we will let you know the dates and all because we are trying to standardize it for all the batches, new batches. So, anyways, that is your upcoming program that we are guessing here. So,
Hmm.
thank you, Happy.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So in the next line, what we're doing is we are going after this embarked that we know had certain missing values. And we are saying, show me those rows where it's NA. And it shows that row number 61 and row number 829 have two missing values, right? NANs. Correct? Is everyone clear on line number 13?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is where we are actually replacing that with the mode. And your question, Mallikarjun, was why are we doing zero,
Yes.
right? And the clue to that question lies in over here. What do you think is the explanation? Line number 15.
Okay. Mark dot mode. Okay.
Because
So
zero.
we have different values inside this embarked. So maybe S, C, D, something like that. And S has the highest number, so it has got zero, maybe location, and then followed by maybe some others categories. So that's why
Okay.
we are using zero.
Anyone else? What do you think? What does the zero indicate over here?
The location of like the say, starting array point zero.
Correct. That's correct. That's correct. So when you do the mode will mode can be multimodal. I mean, the mode of a data can be multimodal, right? So bimodal, trimodal, and all of that. Uh, have you worked with the iris data, people?
Yes.
Iris
Yeah.
flowers.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Okay. So I'll show you this data in a lecture down the road. So iris has 3 flowers: Setosa, Varsi color, I'll just type it as Varsi, and Virginica in this data. And there are 150 observations total in this data. Very, very popular data. 150 observations total. And then each of these flowers are 50, 50, 50. So my question to you is, what will be the mode of this data?
Okay.
The first one is,
First one,
yeah,
or none, or all of them? What do you think will be the correct answer? Three
it would be
choices. First one,
50 first one for me.
okay. Anyone else? What will be the technically the correct answer? So, so the correct answer will be, it's a tri-modal data. So the Python will say you have 3 modes: 0, 1, and 2. So 3 modes, because all of them are happening equal number of times. And then it will list out in the alphabetical order. So Setosa will be the first one. Varsi will be the next one. And Virginica will be the third one. This is how the mode will be computed for this data. So when we are doing the iris in decision tree, I will show you that. But that's how it will display that. So now, because the mode can be many values for a data, depending on how many times a certain value is being repeated, that's why you have to specify the index location, which index mode you want to pick up, right? So I say, please pick up the mode which is sitting in the 0th index. In iris data, if I'm doing any missing value treatment, I can pick up the mode from the 2nd index location or the 1st index location. However, in our Titanic data, if I come back to the Titanic data over here, it says you only have one mode, which is this city S, because you have only one index, right? So this mode is sitting at the 0th index. So that's what I'm actually saying, that please go ahead and fill with the embarked mode and pick the mode which is sitting at the 0th index, which is S, right? So
So in the embark mode, we have only yes as the
correct,
value, is it?
correct. Only S.
Okay, if there is something like T for a few of them, then in number
Then you have to
one, it'll
specify.
T
Correct.
will appear.
Yeah.
Okay,
It won't
okay.
pick it.
So I
It
thought,
won't pick it up
uh,
naturally on its own. You have to specify which index location you want to pick the mode from.
so I thought mode will always be one. So that's where the confusion arises.
No. Mode can be many values. So that's why it's called bimodal distribution, trimodal
Uh,
distribution, right?
uh,
So the one
okay.
that I was showing you, it's a trimodal distribution, because the same values. I mean, where is it? I think.
But what
Yeah,
if the flower, the number of rows were different? One had 39, one had 49, the other one has 52. Then
52 will be the mode.
52 will come.
Hmm.
Is the only one mode, right? The 49 and 32 will not be the
Will
modes,
not
right?
be counted as the mode. In this case, why it's trimodal? Because everything happens the same number of time, 50,
Uh-huh.
50, 50,
Okay, okay. Oh, when there is such condition, then it will put it as a tri-model and bi-model and things like that.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah,
Oh, when
you
we
got
have
it.
one value appearing the same number of times, 10 and 10, for example, so those will come on 0 and 1 in
That's correct.
alphabetical order.
That's correct.
Great, sir. Thanks for the explanation.
Hmm. So that's how it basically. That's why you have to specify why you're looking at this 0, because I'm saying it won't pick up. I mean, if you run without this, it will run. It will give you some error, like
Okay.
index not clear or something of that nature, right? So you have to just specify that I'm looking at the
Got
0th index, right?
it.
So that's how the mode is replaced, and you can see that indeed the row number 61 and 829, which had missing values, have been replaced with Southampton or S as the impact, right? Everybody is with me till line number 16.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we are doing bunch of other things, which is fine. Now this is where we are coming to the deck part, right? So this is what we call as a typecasting. So it won't work. A lot of these pre-processing that we do won't work on the deck as it is, because it's categorical, right? So the first thing that we have to do is we are saying Titanic dot deck as type object. So we are typecasting a categorical into an object first, right? Then you can move forward. And then what we're doing over here, what are we replacing with, anyone? And why in row number 19? What are we replacing with and why?
We are replacing it with a text because
Hmm?
there
Replacing
are
with missing.
missing value and we can't impute it using mode or
That's
median.
correct. That's correct. So we want to recognize that there are missing values, but we don't want to artificially fix that with the mode or median and all of that. Why? Anyone knows why we are doing this in Titanic data? What does deck really mean in Titanic?
The deck is floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, right? Something like that.
Okay. Anyone else? What does deck really mean over here?
Yes, sir.
I think it was, and you can see a large majority of the deck is missing, right? So if I show you the original data, it's basically a more premium location. You'll have to dig out what this information really means. What does the deck really mean in Titanic? But you can see a large majority of the deck is missing. So only a very few people had a seat which was attached to a deck, right? So when you see a large majority of certain thing missing, you cannot really go with a mean or mode or median because that will backfire, right? You have to really figure out what really the missing information really means. So in my view, the deck is more premium, right? So I shouldn't say that if the deck is missing, I'll just replace with some other deck because that will be wrong. So I have to really specify that deck indeed was missing there. So that's why I'm actually coming in and saying, you know what, I will not arbitrarily replace with the mode or medium or anything of that nature. I'll just call it a missing. And that's all. That's all we are doing. So after we do this, you can see now there's nothing missing. But where the NA was there, now you will see it says missing. Instead of saying NA, it says missing because this has a value, right? So if I had replaced that with A, B, C, D and all of that, that wouldn't be the right thing for me to do. But missing has a value for me because it was missing for a large majority. So I haven't done the replacement with any of those, central measures and stuff like that. We have done our own arbitrary or our own logical text that we're replacing with. So that was what I was trying to explain in the missing value earlier on, that you can sometimes replace with your own choice.
Sir, by
Correct?
this method, the mode will be missing only, right?
By if you compute the mode, then it will be missing.
Okay. Is it right thing to do? Like we could have dropped it, right?
Absolutely. No, dropping would not work. I mean, we will drop the deck variable, but I'm saying if you had a variable like this, right? So, for example, I'll keep on bringing in examples from the financial world, right? So, let's say uh, somebody applies for a loan, right? Somebody is applying for a loan. When people are applying for the loan, a large majority are applying for their first loan. I'm not talking about you and me. I'm saying in general, they're applying for the first loan. And let's say prior loan column is there, whether the customer has a prior loan, yes or no, right? For 70%, 60-70% of the customer, it will be no, right? So, and then let's say for the customers who have a prior loan, you have a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 loan. So it doesn't make sense to say for the people who don't have a loan, I'm going to go and replace with the median of the loan, let's say 2.3, or mean of the loan, let's say 1.5, because that will be absolutely a wrong thing to do. I rather say they don't have a loan, which is missing, right? Or say no loan. That is the intention behind that. Got it?
But how would that influence our next model building and all? It would
It,
influence, right?
yeah, it wouldn't. I mean, so what you've done is basically this itself is a value. Missing is a value to me. If I had just dropped these
Okay.
rows, then I would have killed my data
Okay.
completely. But having missing there itself is a value that I did not have any information there, which is completely fine. It wouldn't mess up your model.
I see. Okay.
Other questions, thoughts, people from anyone? Okay. Now we will come to the dummy coding part, right? We
The
have all.
missing could also be kind of a NA and NA in a different context, right, sir?
No, but this is not NaN actually. This is the word missing. So you can say no
The word
information, for
missing.
example. You can
Okay,
say no
okay,
information, right? So the missing is not necessarily saying, but you can say I don't have any information,
okay.
or no deck, right? You can replace with any text. What we're doing is we're replacing with the text, like anything else that you're doing, and then we're gonna do the dummy coding of that.
Sir,
Okay.
then wherever we have NaN, that also instead of doing mode and all, we could have done missing only, right?
You could have done the
Uh,
missing, right?
yeah.
But there is a logic. Embarked, I mean, was missing for a couple of them, so you could have left it with the missing only, right? But you
Yes.
couldn't say that they are missing, so that's why I'm saying. I mean, some port they must have boarded from, somewhere they have taken the ship from, right? So that's why you're saying probably they have boarded from the S, because that's where most of the passengers came from.
Mhm.
Right?
So we have to
Again,
decide
missing value
logically.
treatment, outlier treatment, all of these things are very, very subjective. Probably the most
Okay.
important thing
Yeah.
that you would do, because there's no right or wrong answer for anything, and you have to try out what makes sense for you.
I think that makes sense, sir. Yeah.
Shall I continue?
Yes, please, sir.
And then this is where we are doing the dummy coding of the categorical variable. So you can see, for example, the deck information, which was zero, which was ABC, whatever the deck really had, are now converted to the 012. Embark is converted to 01234, right? All of that. What else? Male, female have been converted. Passenger class was already the numerical one, right? So you can see we haven't added any new columns. All we have done is we've just dummy coded the existing information. So for example, you can see this row, male was there, so male is 1. Next row, female was there, female is 0. So we haven't changed anything. I mean, everything remains as it is. So what is missing coded as? Can anyone tell? Missing deck.
That is 7.
That's correct. So missing is coded as 7 in the information.
Yeah.
C is 2, so I believe A and B will be 0 and 1, right? So that's what basically the dummy coding really does for the entire data. So I'll take a pause over here and see if you are clear with the missing and the dummy coding part.
Sir, 20-second, what we are doing? Why we are
20 second.
20-second? Yeah.
22nd is just renaming certain columns, right? So just for the making more sense. So sex has been converted to gender. So I'm saying Titanic rename columns,
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
passing on a
Those
dictionary
things are
key value
fine, but
pair.
why age means small case, fair means is,
Just to be
we are doing.
consistent, just to be consistent, because there
Oh,
are certain things which are like caps, certain things which are small, and all of that. I get confused with this, right? So I'll just have everything in the small,
okay.
because when you are calling out the variable in your modeling, you don't know whether age was capital, and it will say age not found. Like, oh, age was small actually. So then you go and make this small, right? So just
Oh,
to be creating that ease later on in the modeling.
okay.
Okay, dummy coding. Folks, you're clear. Everybody has the output. I hope so.
This is a very good insight, so on the dummy coding. So instead of creating those 10, 15 additional columns, so this is
Exactly.
pretty good. So
Exactly right. So that's
so
the
so
main
both
utility of.
okay, but both the approaches will not have any impact on the model, right? So
See, anything you do in your data potentially has an impact in your model's performance. Potentially has, right? So that's where people try out many different imputation strategy, many different dummy coding strategy, all of those things in terms of just figuring out, can I squeeze a little bit more from the model's output, right? So those are
so
some of
why
the things which are.
yes, sir. Why I brought up the question is that standardization, normalization, that is also going in mind. So
Hmm.
if we use this method, we may have to consider the standardization, whereas the other method, we may not have to consider standardization, normalization, things like that. Just a thought, perhaps we can discuss it later. But
That's
I was
correct. Yeah.
wondering what will be the kind of impact if we use this method versus the other method, because from the coding perspective and handling the number of columns perspective, this looks very, very good. But it will have any impact on the real model building we should be aware of.
Yep. Awesome.
Continues.
So can you just
Okay.
explain once again this 23, sir? The dummy coding
23.
category.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
see if anybody else would like to explain first from the class. Then I will do it. Anyone?
I can, sir, if nobody.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so over here, I think we discussed in other class also. So the gender, we have male and female. So there are two ways of coding. You can have both male and female, two columns, and male you can put wherever the line is male, you can mark one, female will be zero. And for the female candidate, so it is male zero, female one. That is one way of coding
Represented. Yeah.
representing.
Yes.
So that's what we discussed. So if you have good, bad, ugly, then we will have three columns. Good is
Yes.
100, bad is 010, like that. So
Yeah.
that is one way of coding. But the other way of coding here is like gender. You can simply keep male as one, female as two, or male as zero, female as one, like that. In one column itself, we can code both. Similarly, good, bad, ugly, it will be 0, 1, 2. If you want to remove 0, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, like that. So in one column itself, we can code them. So for all good, it is 1. For all bad, it is 2, something like that. So that is what is happening in the last line over there. So Titanic of X is the column there, and if it is object type, so they're putting categorical is the method from PD. So Titanic X, that's they're taking, and the simple that codes is actually doing this work of assigning 0, 1, 2 to good, bad, ugly. So that's what is happening there. So in the deck, probably there are 6, 7 such different types. So it has started from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, deck A,
Then
deck
yeah,
B,
yeah.
deck C, and missing was the last deck. That is also one type there. So it has taken missing probably the last one. So it is showing as 7. And embarked
So it may be
yes,
having that
no,
7
yeah.
with it.
Yeah, so there may be 7 categories over there, like
7 category.
deck A, deck B, deck C. Those are all the values may be there. So I started to code A as 0 and B as 1, like that.
Yeah.
I hope that answers
The
the
only thing I
question.
would add on, Mallikarjun,
Sir,
in your explanation, which has been very good, is it begins the coding from zero. So Python
0.
indexing begins with zero. So when you see 7, that means 8 categories are already there,
Yes,
right?
agree, sir. Correct.
Awesome. Any other questions
Yeah.
from anyone?
Yes, sir. One question is we had done that mean medium mode, correct? So
Yeah.
there are some APIs also had seen like simpler impute. So that also does the same purpose. What is the if we can do this? What is the use of that API?
Imputer, like scalar
Yeah.
imputer strategy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Even there you have to pass on a strategy. So even if you don't pass on, it takes by default, for example, mean, right? So you have to pass on the strategy in terms of what strategy you want to follow. So that also works on the same concept, but they've somebody has created a package around it, right? So for example, I can say sklearn imputer, right? Simple imputer, for example. And if you look at the logic, you can see the strategies mean. So even if you don't pass on anything, it is taking mean as the default, right? However, you could change it to somewhere over here, median and other things, right? So it's doing exactly the same thing as what we're doing, but just sort of like here. So you can see mean, median, most frequent. Most frequent is nothing but the mode, and constant meaning something that you want to pass on as a your own value, right? Same thing that we've done, but a package is built around it.
Okay.
Okay, folks, I know we are getting close to the wrap up time over here, but let's just continue to run through it. Outliers. What are the outliers? Anyone? Now we're gonna go to the next section, which talks about the outlier treatment. What is an outlier?
So that skew, right skew and the left skew, which you get when you draw.
Right, right.
So those are
Extreme values, right?
the
Extreme
extreme values.
values. Yeah, either very low or very high.
Or
They will have an
minimum
impact
or
on
max.
your mod. Hmm? Sorry.
It's beyond the value of the minimum or the maximum.
No, I mean it cannot be beyond the
No.
minimum or the maximum because they will be the minimum and the maximum, right? Outliers themselves. But like they are far away from the other data points. That's what basically it means, right? So I think somebody was bringing up Mallikarjun. It was you who was bringing up like Anil Dhiro Mani's salary
Yeah,
versus
yeah,
our
yeah.
salary and all of
Yeah,
that, right? So that's an
yeah.
outlier.
Correct. And in technical terms, the when you put the box plot, anything beyond those whiskers, up or down, those will be outliers.
Yeah, yeah. We will talk about a different way of defining the outliers and fixing it. So I'm just going to walk you through the code first and then ask you to
Yeah.
type it with me in the next line, right? So here the strategy that we will follow, folks, is basically what we call as flooring and capping, right? And how are we defining flooring and capping is what I will talk about now. So in any data, let's say this is what my data spread is like. So you can imagine these are the data points, right? And so on and so forth. And there are certain data points which are over here and certain data points which are over here. So the strategy that we will be using is we will chop off this at a certain point and chop off this at a certain point and bring these observation to these value and bring these observation to these value. That's how basically it looks like, right? But what really happens is, I mean, this is, you can imagine this is a horizontal way of looking at that, but vertical way is, let's say I'm looking at the income. I'm just making up a baby data, right? So I'm looking at the income and I have 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 18 lakhs, 19 lakhs, all of that data, right? So now let's put them in a graph. So 19, 18, 15, 17, 16, sorry, 17, and then 16 and 15 will be over here. Now I have an income of $100 million over here, and I have an income of 0.01 cents, right? So what it means is it doesn't necessarily make sense for us to have this income or this income because the range is very, very different, right? So what we do is we compute what we call as a percentile, right? And the concept of the percentile is that I will compute the first percentile, not the percent, and 99th percentile. And any observations which are above 99th percentile will be brought down to the 99th percentile, which is what we call as a capping strategy. So any extreme values on the higher side will be capped, right? Cap meaning you cannot be more than this. I'm going to cap it to the 99th percentile. And any values which are less than the first percentile will be floored, right? So that means you will not be allowed a value lower than this value. That's the concept of the flooring and the capping strategy that we're working on. There are many, many strategies. Some people use a z-score. Some people use an extreme value of, box plot coming in, which is basically nothing but the IQR based interpretation, right? But this is what is more robust, which is any values which are more than first percentile, sorry, any values which are lower than first percentile will be brought down to the first percentile. Any values which are more than 99 percentile will be brought down to that level. So let me show you some data to really draw your attention on it. This will be there in the describe. I think somewhere we would have done the describe. Otherwise, I'll have to run the code to show you. Tail is here, drop, head.
It's 24, I think.
24 is describe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look. 24. Yeah, 24 is described, right? So you can see, I mean, even though I don't have the max, let's look at the fair, right? Fair, you can see there is an extreme value of 543. So I really don't have the full output, but you can see there's an extreme value of 543. While the 75th percentile is 31. What does it mean 75th percentile is 31, first of all? Anyone?
75% of the data set like have, I mean, less than 31.
Exactly right. Exactly right. That's exactly the correct interpretation. So that means 75% of the passengers who were on that ship paid a fare of 31 pound or lower, right? Similarly, what is the interpretation of 50th percentile or the median? That 50% of the people paid 14 pound or lower, or 14.454 pound or lower of the fare, right? That's the interpretation. Whereas there were some outliers which paid as high as 542 pound or whatever that number is, right? So that's what we're gonna cap and floor, right? But before we do the cap and floor, I just want to look at the quantile. So here we are saying, please give me the quantiles, and quantiles only is defined for the numerical columns. So I'm saying Titanic dot quantile. Quantile is a method. As I'm saying, give me the first percentile, 95th percentile, 99th percentile, and first percentile. Sorry, 100 percentile, right? So you see these values. So you can see the fare is 512 and the 99th percentile is 249. So there are 1% of the passengers who paid actually more than 249 pounds of fare, right? And that's what we will be reducing. So we are saying this passenger or the number of people who paid more than 249, I want to reduce their fare to 249 because that's what my 99th percentile is, right? You could do the same thing for the age as well, but age probably I'll just leave alone. But I'm showing you if you were to do it for fair, which definitely makes sense in my view. This is how we're gonna fix it. But before I go and show you how to do it, you can see this is how the outlier distribution looks like for fair. Most of the values you can see are clearly less than 300, but there are few values right over here which are extreme values, definitely an outlier. So that needs to be truncated. How are we gonna do this? In this case, I'm showing you in a manual way. I don't know whether I've copied the right information or not. So it's supposed to be 249. So you can see this is what we're doing. So we are saying Titanic.fare. Please fix that. np.clip. np.clip is that I'm saying, any values which are more than this, any values which are less than this, please bring them to that level. So I'm saying for any values which are lower than zero, if by mistake somebody had a negative fare that the company paid them to board the ship, right? So I want to make them zero. And if anybody paid that more than 247, or it should be actually 249, there's a typo, then I want to bring them to the 249 level. And then after I do this, you can see now the extreme values have been handled. So the 512 is now gone. The total number of observations remain what it is, 891. But now the max is only 247. Why 247 or 247? I think there is some uh, error in this line or something would have happened. I don't know what exactly happened over here, but whatever value comes out on your data print, you can stick with this because that was the 99th percentile and I don't want any values more than that, right? Now, if I do the histogram, you can see it looks much better. Again, no missing values and all of that and so on and so forth. If you wanted to do it for the entire columns, I don't recommend this because you need to be aware of what exactly you're doing. However, if you want to do it for the entire column, this strategy, you can follow this code. Just like what we've done for the dummy coding. So we are saying for X in Titanic columns, as long as there is certain thing in the Titanic columns, I will compute their first percentile and 99th percentile, and I will store the values in this object called as outlier. I will go and run through each of these columns and I'll say np clip, just like I have done. Grab that column and put the outlier, this basically clip the 0th index and clip the first index because I'm only computing 2 percentile, only two values are there. So it will do a blanket flooring and capping for all your variables, right? So this is how powerful it becomes. But I wouldn't recommend that because then you can floor and cap many variables which don't need to be floored and capped. So
So
I will
here
take a
we are
pause
not
over here.
checking for
Huh?
data type. Here we are not
Sorry?
checking for a data type, correct?
No, we're not. We're not. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not necessarily a recommended strategy, but if you want to do it, you can.
Means it will run even for categorical variable.
After dummy coding. Before dummy coding, it won't,
Okay. Okay.
right? Other questions, folks, on this?
Sir, flooring and capping, is it recommended or just we are doing
Yes,
for?
absolutely. No, absolutely recommended for outliers treatment.
But what if we do twice? Still, we can see that 247 is a big number. So if you compare with 31.
Right. You can do it multiple times, but then you will keep on fixing the problem and there's no limit to it, right? So because something will become 99th percentile, right? It's bound to happen. Then
Yeah.
again, you lower it. So I think one time is good enough.
Okay.
So
Other
if we have
questions, folks?
multiple outliers in our data set, so we can use the looping for those columns only, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And then run it for those columns. So for example, you can say Titanic underscore outliers, right? And then run it only for those columns. If you created a new data frame which you want to treat using this strategy, just create a brand new data and just do the strategy on this. This will run for the entire. Or you can do by hand, column at a time, to really make sure that you're doing it correctly. Okay.
Okay.
So
Sir,
if the difference
one
between 99 and then what you can say 99 and the maximum value, if the difference is more, maybe then we can follow this. If the difference is very less, then what do you suggest? Still,
Then you can leave it alone. If the difference is not much, then you leave it alone. No point.
I mean 99 is 249 here, right? If it is close
Yeah.
to 500, right?
Yeah.
What is the recommendation? But 75% is still 31.
Right. No,
So
75% will be very bullish actually. Then you're actually missing a lot of information, right? So generally we don't go below 95th and 5th percentile. If you want to be very, very bullish,
mhm,
instead of saying the first, instead of using the first percentile and 99th percentile, you can use 5th percentile, change it
and
to 5th
95
percentile
percentile
and 95th percentile.
clears.
That will fix 10% of your outliers. Right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
I'm fixing 2% of my outliers using this strategy.
yes.
2% of the outliers are being fixed, right? 1% on the lower side, 1% on the extreme higher side.
So in other way, we will fix the 10%.
We
Yeah,
will fix the
clear.
10%, right? And if you follow the 75th and 25th, then you'll fix half your data actually, which is not necessarily an outlier then,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
Okay. Thanks.
Other questions, thoughts, people?
So just one remark. Somebody said we do it two times, three times. That may not work. Actually, once we do the cap and flooring, if you run the quantile on that, it is showing 99 and 100 as the same number. So there is nothing more to do actually. Even if somebody by mistake does it, it doesn't alter the value. It is not that somebody can keep trying that and keep compressing is my findings.
So if you were to recompute the quantiles, then it will do. If you were to recompute, so let's say you have already done the treatment. Let's say this is what my treated data looks like, right?
Yeah,
Now I will come and run the quantiles again, right? So
correct.
the first percentile is not going to change. Maybe there is a probability that the 99th percentile will change, right? And if you rerun the entire code, then it will be replaced with that. If the 99th
Yeah.
percentile is indeed different.
Okay. In the this same sample data set, I just did the reconcile on that after the adjusting. It
Yeah.
is showing the 247 for both actually.
Then that means that was the extreme outlier and that continues to be extreme outlier. But there might be
Ah,
data where that may not be the case and something else becomes the
okay,
outlier right
okay.
now. So that may be the
Uh,
case there, right?
okay,
So that
got it.
means even 247 or 249, whatever that number is, was really extreme outlier. So you can think about compute, let's say 95th percentile, what value you get. I think we already have it over here, right?
95th percentile, we have 112, sir, actually.
Yeah. So then you can imagine that. I mean, if I keep on chopping 1%, 1%, I will
Correct.
come to the point where
Okay.
112 will become the max value then,
Yeah,
right?
agree.
Yeah. Okay, so this is all I wanted to cover today, folks, but I know some of you may not have typed the code, so you can go ahead and actually type it in. The pre-processing that we haven't done today is the standardization. Everything else we have covered, and we are in good place overall. Linear and logistic, you already know, so I'll just talk about some of the concepts, high-level, things that you should be aware of, but we will not do the hands-on exercise on that. Will that be fair, or you want me to do it?
On the linear and sorry, sir.
Logistic regression.
Sir, I think it is fine, but if you want to if you want to cover some different data set, maybe that data set you can share with us and we can do it from our side.
Sure. I'll probably assign you something that you can work on, both for a linear and logistic, and we can quickly talk about that. I would rather spend time talking about some of the metrics and the interpretation of the metrics, and then looking at the fundamentals of how a classification model really works, right? I mean, in terms of how it generates a probability and all of that, how the probability is converted to class, and what does the class misclassification really means in terms of the confusion matrix, and then we'll jump into a decision tree. So I want to assign you some pre-read folks for the class before, and others you can just follow along my blog number 23 for this entire Titanic data that we are working on, and make sure that you have done completely end to end. The articles that you're going to read will be article number 30 and 31. So if you can make a note of that, article number 30 and 31. Sorry, 28, which is linear regression, 30, which is classification evaluation metrics, 31, which is logistic regression, and you can share that in the chat group. 34, 35, and 36 is what the plan is for the next class. Make sense?
So please repeat those chapters.
Right here. Okay, let me just do this. Why don't I just put it there? So just a second.
Yeah.
26. So I'll just put the links so that way everyone have it. So these are the pre-read for the next class, and teaching assistant can make a note of this.
Yes, sir.
Pre-reads.
Sir,
The
also,
first one.
can you explain panda profiling?
Pandas profiling also. Yeah, pandas profiling also. So that's a good one. Thanks for reminding. So too many tabs I have open, so I'll just kill all of them and have only one, right? So pandas profiling is here. 24. So just bookmark, or I mean, just make a note of this. I mean, you cannot necessarily bookmark all of them, or shouldn't, right? 26 I have already shared, I believe. Yeah, standardization I have already shared. This is the only one which is missing, I mean, broadly speaking. Linear regression. Again, I'm not going to go end to end in the linear regression unless you want me to, right? So, because that is something that you
was
have
covered
already.
quite well, sir, in the previous class. Linear and logistic regression both. Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. So we'll just talk about some of the fundamentals there. Linear, then article number 30. Again, some of these concepts will be familiar to you. Article number 30, right? Article number 31. It's just slow sometimes to respond. I think it might be my network also. Yeah, article number 31 is what I've already shared with you. And then 34 and 34 to 36. We'll see how much we can cover, but I think we can probably cover all of them. If you come prepared, that is right. So 34. 35. And 36. That's all. I think that'll be good if you can cover all of that. You'll be in good shape overall, right? Okay. That's it.
Yes.
So I'll give it to you to make sure that you can type your code in. You're able to run it. If anyone is facing any challenges, do let me know. I'm here, but I'll just put myself on the mute and then I'll see you in class next week. Do all of you come in class or you are some of you are virtual?
Most of us are
Most
coming to the class, sir, actually.
Most of the folks are coming. Okay, that's good. So then
Sir,
I'll see you
Yeah.
there in the
uh,
class.
maybe next 2 to 3 weeks, I will not be here in Bangalore, so I
Okay.
will be missing the classroom sessions.
Okay, no problem.
And I would request if you are doing any using the whiteboard, right? So maybe this was the better session I felt. So
Yeah,
using
yeah.
so if in class
I
also you're doing,
no, I
maybe I
don't
would
use the
request you to.
whiteboard. I use the digital board only. So you'll be in good place.
Okay, then thanks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
sure, Amit. Okay, folks, I'll mute myself, or I mean, if everybody's done with the code, then you can confirm and you can drop off. If you have already typed the code until flooring and capping, you're able to generate the output, then you can drop off. Others can hang on if you're still having some challenges. We will
thank
not
you.
talk about any new
Will,
concepts. Yeah, so if you're
will
done, then
there
you can
be
drop. Yeah,
will there be any assignments for the assessment
no,
going forward?
no. As of now, there's nothing.
Okay, sir.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Mm, very much, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone who needs help, let me know. I'm still here till about 5:15 or so. Otherwise, if you're done with the coding part, then feel free to drop off. Up to you. You can still hang on if you want to.
Okay, sir. I'm done till the last line of code. I think
Okay.
everything is working, so I'd like to take leave. Thank
Thank
you
you. Take
very
care.
much, sir. Very good and very interactive session, and thanks for all your coaching.
Thank you, Malkarjan. Take care.
Okay,
Yeah.
bye,
We
sir.
need to add.
Thank you, Mohit.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. See you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. So regarding, hello.
Yeah.
So this regarding this class, I mean the topic which is data standardization and normalization.
Hmm.
So how this data can be scaling can be done. That
That's
part
correct.
we are not.
That is a
Yeah,
topic.
that
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll be covering that
That's
next time.
okay. Okay, fine, sir.
Yeah. That's
Thank you,
one of
sir.
the pre-reads that we have. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes. That's the most
Okay.
important part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how it can be done and what gauge we have to do that. So I need to know like how, even in the coding part also.
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll discuss that next time.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Take care, Sashika.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, I believe nobody has any questions, so I will drop off as well. Feel free to ping me on the WhatsApp if you need my help. Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Sinchana, if you can
Thank you,
just
sir.
make sure everybody has the links ready for
Yes,
the
sir. Yes.
class next time. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Take care.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.